struggling to provide water that residents actually want to drink is reaching out for help.
And tonight they say it might be time for the state to step in and provide millions, many millions, to make this a reality. David Custer has that.
I wanted some answers. I wanted some help.
Leanne Walters is boiling over the water flowing into her home.
I contacted Virginia Tech to see if they would be willing to do independent testing for my home, and they did.
Those tests revealed high levels of lead in her water, and she asked the students and faculty at Virginia Tech to go beyond her home and test hundreds of spots throughout the city.
Every zip code came back with a problem with lead.
This is not a problem that's unique to the city of Flint. Many Midwestern cities are facing lead concerns.
Director of Public Works Howard Croft says the city's water just became back in compliance with the Safe Drinking Water Act, and now this issue is raising even more concerns that are being addressed. Mayor Dane Walling drafting a letter to Governor Snyder asking for $30 million to upgrade the city's struggling water system, $10 million of which will be used to remove lead pipes. He came before City Council tonight to get his letter endorsed, and that's when Walters cornered the mayor before walking in.
Are you asking for the replacement to be city side only, or is that including what it's going to cost the citizens as well?
Both. That's why I called it Healthy Homes.
Okay.
Because there's been a lot of dollars spent over the years on lead paint, especially weatherization. So this would be a similar effort that would extend to indoor plumbing as well as service lines.
Pleased with the mayor's response, Walters hopes the governor grants the mayor's request and her elected leaders fix the problem sooner than later.
I would like for them to start being honest, and I would like for them to realize that there is a problem, and instead of being a hindrance, to start working together like they should be as our representatives.
Well, a new worry tonight for people who've been complaining about their water. They're wondering now, is it even safe to drink?
That's what a report shows. It contains harmful amounts of lead, and that report was the focus of a meeting tonight in Flint, and that's where we find Andrew Keller, who joins us now. Drew.
Well, Virginia Tech researchers are telling people in the town if they want to drink the water, they need to flush their system for at least 5 minutes, or they need to have a special filter that can detect and pull out lead. Now, it's the conclusion from a report that found lead in the water system here in Flint and is just the beginning of a major outcry.
We're sick and tired of being mistreated, and we want fresh, clean water, and we want it from the best source.
The cost of Flint City Water took the back seat tonight.
Somebody hasn't been telling us the truth.
As the alarming water quality report released by Virginia Tech University claimed center stage.
There's no part of the city that is immune from this problem.
Tonight, nearly 200 people listened to Virginia Tech professor Mark Edwards as he laid out his serious concerns with the city's water. Edwards says several tests of Flint homes turned up lead levels that far exceed EPA standards.
This is why it's something we think should be taken seriously, and that folks need to take steps to protect themselves.
Edwards says the city turning to Flint River water from Detroit has caused underground pipes to corrode, aging the system significantly. But even more concerning, he says those lead particles are entering the water going into homes. He questions why city and state tests did not detect the high levels before. And so do residents.
Why would they lie? Why would they do cheating tests? Why would they hold back information?
And tonight, the ACLU is also asking that question.
That there should be an independent outside investigation looking into exactly what the city did in order to be able to claim that this water is safe when it's not.
And now the city responding to this report tonight, they say that they've done the tests according to law, but they are working with the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality to try to improve the corrosive levels with this Flint River water. Stay tuned. Live and local in Flint, Andrew Keller, WNEM TV 5.
Also developing tonight, they've been mostly silent during the Flint water debacle, but now a number of local hospitals are getting involved. Today, the hospitals addressed the medical concerns surrounding lead levels in the city's water supply.
There is no amount of lead that's safe for humans to consume, especially for young children.
Dr. Lawrence Reynolds is disturbed by the high levels of lead in Flint water. The CEO of Mott Children's Health Center joined other medical professionals today to express their concerns about data that showed lead levels have more than doubled in some neighborhoods since the city started tapping into the Flint River for water. The county health director is equally alarmed.
In the case of lead in water, You can't taste it. You can't smell it. The only way to detect it is to have your water tested.
That test was done independently and recently released by Professor Mark Edwards of Virginia Tech, an expert in the field. Today, the medical community raised the red flag, saying the new test results takes this ongoing problem to the crisis level.
Why has it taken so long for the medical community to respond?
Yeah, you know, I don't think the lead is new. The lead issue is new. The other chemicals that were elevated, known, unknown, we didn't have kind of a research backing about what that would do to people.
When we hit the streets for community reaction following today's announcement, residents told us they wondered if city officials fully understood the scope of the problem. City Administrator Natasha Henderson insists they do.
That's why we're here. We're here to show our support and to say that we are going to do anything and work with the Health Coalition and the medical community in any type of way to ensure that their concerns are addressed.
You know, I asked Natasha Henderson whether or not she was concerned as far as disappointment was when they found out the findings of the lead in the contamination, some areas more than double. She says she's very disappointed, but it doesn't stop the city from trying to find a solution. And tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, the city will have a rebuttal to the findings that have been brought by the medical community. Reporting live in Flint, Ronnie Duncan, WNEM TV 5.
Live and local with coverage you can count on. This is WNEM TV 5 News at 5.
From violating the Safe Drinking Water Act to potentially dangerous levels of lead, one mid-Michigan city has been dealing with a host of trouble since it began drawing water from the Flint River. But now the governor says action is coming by the end of the week. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sam Merrill.
And I'm Colette Boyd. Now, Governor Snyder says he is going to get involved in Flint's water crisis, but hasn't revealed much about what he plans to do. So TV5's Nick Lully asked him some tough questions.
Our viewers want to know, what are you going to do about the Flint water crisis?
For months, Flint's water supply has been plagued with foul smell, gross discoloration, and now dangerous levels of lead. So we wanted to ask the tough questions of Governor Rick Snyder. After all, it was his appointed emergency manager who oversaw pulling the plug on Detroit.
I think it was a mistake to switch to the Flint River as the source for the water supply.
In terms of a mistake, what I would say is we found there are probably things that weren't as fully understood when that switch was made. And again, it was a switch made with the community.
Snyder and his administration are quick to point out that the decision was made with support of city leaders at the time. But today, for the first time, the governor appeared to acknowledge that increased levels of lead found in children in Flint are directly related to the water supply.
It appears that lead levels could be higher or have increased. What can be done to deal with that in an effective fashion?
But almost as soon as the questions about Flint water started, the press briefing was over and the governor exited through a rear door.
You know what, I'm apologize, we're out of time. We got to wrap up. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
After the governor slipped out, a member of his communications team told me that there could be an event planned for as early as Friday to discuss the specifics of fixing the Flint water crisis.
This is WNEM TV 5 News at 6.
Were there mistakes made in the handling of Flint's water emergency?
Who needs to be held accountable, and why did you tell us federal rules were being followed?
So who is responsible for the mistakes that led to Flint's water crisis?
Tonight we are asking the tough questions of both state and city officials, getting answers for you. Today the State Department of Environmental Quality admitted they messed up.
What about the city, though? How did the water issues apparently get by everybody and become a national story? James Felton is asking the tough questions. He begins our team coverage.
It's been a ever-evolving and more troubling the more layers you scratch.
Jim Ananick describing the water crisis that has plagued Flint the last 18 months. Now the state Senate minority leader wants the legislature to launch an investigation, wanting those responsible for this mess to be held accountable.
I think the responsibility can be laid across multiple levels.
So we brought our tough questions to the mayor, wanting to know about his culpability in all of this.
Flint relied on the information provided us to the MDEQ.
Why weren't the federal rules followed?
The Michigan Department of Environmental Quality has admitted their leading role in Flint's water contamination problems.
Who needs to be held accountable, and why did you tell us federal rules were being followed?
The Michigan Department of Environmental Quality, MDEQ, assured Flint that the standards were being followed, that the city's water met those standards, and that information was clearly wrong. This was the state's fault.
Meanwhile, Anna Nick also wants to see measures put in place to prevent lead-tainted water from ever coming out of anyone's faucet again.
We send Peace Corps volunteers all over the world to help people make sure they have safe drinking water. And in Flint, Michigan, United States of America, 2015, we had a period where people didn't feel comfortable and still don't feel comfortable drinking the water.
Asking the tough questions in Flint, James Felton, WNEM, TV5.
Now, the mayor says responsibility rests with the DEQ, and today the agency took some of that blame. TV5's Faith Gantner went to Lansing and continues our team coverage.
We're committed to demonstrating trust and ensuring that Flint has safe drinking water.
The Michigan Department of Environmental Quality owns up to mistakes made during Flint's water emergency. Michigan DEQ Director Dan Wyant acknowledges the wrong federal protocols were used, leading the DEQ to declare Flint water safe to drink for more than a year, when instead levels of lead were dangerously high. He met with us today to face our tough questions.
It was not enough methods for corrosion control in place, and that's recognition. What's being asked today is that corrosion control be put in place.
Blaming a lack of experience among staff members, the DEQ is now working to correct the problem, including reassigning the official in charge of municipal drinking water.
For Flint residents who have been paying the price now for more than a year for these mistakes, what would you want to tell them?
Well, I just appreciate their frustration, I appreciate their anger, but we're committed to getting it right.
We then asked Wyant if mistakes like this were made in Flint, could there be similar issues in other Michigan cities?
We haven't had a city above 50,000 switch water supply, so in the short term, no. Long term, we'll correct this, and going forward, we're committed to making sure all water in Michigan is safe.
Meanwhile, Governor Rick Snyder is calling for an independent third-party review of the state's handling of Flint's water crisis. Reporting from Lansing, Faith Gantner, WNEM TV5.
WNEM TV5 News starts right now with a breaking news alert.
All right, on this election night, we interrupt Colbert for some breaking news out of Flint. Looks like we've got a winner in the mayor's race in Flint.
That's right. David Custer joins us live at the headquarters of Dr. Karen Weaver. David.
That's right, Colette and Sam. History was made in the city of Flint tonight, and I'm joined by the new mayor of the city of Flint, Dr. Karen Weaver. How does it feel tonight?
It feels really good. I'm glad to be here. It's been a long road, but hard work paid off, and it's time for us to do what we talked about.
One of those situations that you told me earlier that people were not informed was about the water crisis in the city of Flint right now. How are you going to fix this?
That was one of them. Well, what we've talked about as far as the water is, I've always said that I wanted to meet with the congressional delegation. I said that Flint needs to be declared a disaster area, so I'm going to be working with the state reps and state senator. We need to make that happen because we know that we can't fix it with the funds that Flint or the state have, and we need some federal assistance, and we need that now, and we should have had that.
Mayor of Mid-Michigan's largest city fulfills her campaign promise and declares a state of emergency. Good evening, I'm David Custer.
And I'm Colette Boyd. Mayor Karen Weaver made that declaration last night in Flint and again this afternoon. It's a response to the city's ongoing water crisis.
She says it's needed to raise awareness of a problem that hasn't gone away. TV5's Ronnie Duncan joins us live in downtown Flint with more. Ronnie.
Thank you very much, David and Colette. I can tell you this much. From the day that Karen Weaver first took office, she made a claim and a battle cry that she wanted Flint to get back to safe drinking water. Today, she took the first step with the declaration that this is a disaster area and that contaminated water is no longer wanted in Flint.
I feel like we have no other option but to reach out and ask for help.
The mayor of Flint describing why after nearly a month in office, she is declaring a state of emergency for her city. Today at City Hall, she said that the water crisis leaves her no other choice and that she's living up to her campaign promise by declaring the emergency.
We knew that we had to take this step to make these things happen. I'm sorry, to make this happen, and it will open up, it's going to open up some other avenues for us. But if we don't take this first step, nothing will happen.
Mayor Weaver is urging both the state and Washington to get on board and to understand the gravity of the situation. The new boss of Flint is asking for federal disaster aid, and for some local advocates like Melissa Mays, that's welcome news.
I am so thrilled that in this short amount of time she has stood up for us. Even before she was elected, she was demanding that this be declared a state of emergency.
Tonight, there are no new medical findings about the impact of the lead-laced water. that's leading some to cast doubt on the declaration. County Board Chairman Jamie Curtis is among them. He told the Flint Journal that the destination for the emergency is not going to change anything. He goes on to say nothing more can be done.
Well, you know what? It was interesting because what they're waiting on is that certified declaration of emergency, and hopefully that's getting over there. If it's not there right this minute, it should be on its way today.
Our lives are completely changed.
Melissa Mays says life has been tough for her family since her water supply became tainted with lead. Even everyday cooking is a nightmare.
When you heat the water up, it condenses the heavy metals. So there you are. If you're going to make spaghetti, you're making lead spaghetti.
So today, when she found out that Michigan Department of Environmental Quality Director Dan Wyant had turned in his resignation letter to Governor Rick Snyder, it came as a relief. It's been a never-ending saga that has gripped Mid-Michigan's largest city. First, it was foul taste and smell. Then, tests confirmed corrosive Flint River water was leaching lead from aging pipes into the supply. Eventually, the water supply switched back to Detroit, but not before becoming national news.
Well, I think it shows that the governor is holding people accountable. He's listening to what we're saying, and he's taking it seriously.
Mayor Karen Weaver, who declared a state of emergency for the city earlier this month, supports the resignation and submitted an action plan today to Genesee County. It's a necessary step in getting further funding to fight the water crisis now in the short term and down the road.
They'll get that going to the governor, and I think when he takes a look at it, he'll see we've submitted a good plan and give him a lot to think about as far as what we need here.
As for Mays, while she thinks progress is being made, she knows this is not the end of the battle.
Our water's still not safe, and firings aside, I think it's excellent, but it's still not fixing our water right now.
Hey everyone, it's David Custer from WNEM TV5. We are out here at a protest here at City Hall in downtown Flint. That group behind me, that group right there, Micah Moore is in the center of that group. He has rallied people here in downtown Flint the same day that President Obama has signed an emergency declaration declaring it an emergency in the city of Flint, which will allow FEMA to provide water, filters, and other necessities to the residents of the city of Flint. So as you can see, people are gathered behind me. We will have complete coverage on your mobile device and on WNEM.com. And stay tuned to WNEM TV5 News.
WNEM TV5 News starts right now with a breaking news alert.
To you, the people of Flint, I say tonight, as I have before, I am sorry and I will fix it.
Anger at the Capitol as Governor Snyder apologizes for the crisis engulfing his administration. Much of his State of the State speech tonight was about helping a city where the people can't even drink their water. Now, here are some key points tonight. He's asking lawmakers for $28 million for water, filters, studies, and health services. His administration is cooperating with investigators, and he promises accountability. He's released a timeline of steps being taken, and tomorrow he will release emails related to that crisis. My colleague Sam Merrill was at that speech. He joins us in Lansing with more. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Colette. It was a very contrite and very apologetic Governor Snyder, as you heard. He said that the people of Flint had been failed on all levels of government. State, local, federal. He said they all dropped the ball. Now, going forward, one of the things that he's going to do, I think you may have mentioned this, releasing all of his emails from the last 2 years on this topic. They will be available for all to see online beginning tomorrow. And also that $28 million that you said. He is going to be recommending that the legislature pass that immediately. He said that it's just the beginning. There will be more requests for additional funding in the future. This $28 million will be bottled water, water filters, beefed up treatment for people who have already been impacted by this. Lots of money for replacing the faucets in the schools and daycares. And also a big study of Flint's water infrastructure, looking at the pipes and connections. Here's the governor now.
You deserve better. You deserve accountability. You deserve to know that the buck stops here with me. Most of all, you deserve to know the truth, and I have a responsibility to tell the truth. The truth about what we've done and what we'll do to overcome this challenge.
And while taking responsibility, as he did tonight, the governor also pointed a finger at the DEQ and the EPA. He said they both failed by failing to recognize that the Flint River water needed to be treated, and then also failing to respond in a more quick manner to the people when they started complaining about the taste, the smell, the odor of the water, essentially blowing them off. Nonetheless, he pledged that he will be with the people of Flint forever, how long it takes.
There can be no excuse. When Michiganders turn on the tap, they expect and deserve clean, safe water. It's that simple. It's that straightforward. So that's what we'll deliver. To the families in Flint, it is my responsibility, my commitment to deliver. I give you my commitment that Michigan will not let you down.
All right. Lots of protesters here tonight on the other side of the Capitol building chanting that they want the governor to resign. Our colleague Andrew Keller is covering that part of the story for us.
Emotions ran high as people gathered on the Capitol lawn to show their disgust with the state. State, they say, failed thousands of people in Flint by cutting costs and delivering them poisonous water.
Human rights violation to the extreme, yes.
But see people coming from all over the state in support of what happened to us, I think that's amazing.
As Governor Snyder laid out his plans to fix the problem, promising to give the financial resources people in the city will need, hundreds of people continued their call for his resignation. Many saying his leadership is what led to the failure.
And somebody's got to be held accountable.
We don't want to have that fear that we have to always drink water, you know, and there's something nasty in our water. We just don't want to have that fear no more.
A fear that has affected an entire community and beyond.
He didn't just poison the Flint people. He poisoned everyone who travels into Flint. And he's put us all at risk, every single one of us.
And when you got problems and you knew it happened, you should address that immediately.
Well, as you heard earlier, the governor has announced that he's going to make public all of the emails on this topic from the last 2 years. And you will be able to read those beginning tomorrow. I'm sure we'll have a link to them at our website, WNEM.com. Live from the state capitol tonight, I'm Sam Merrill. Colette, back to you.
At the Reynolds home, the kids take their video games seriously. It is loud and intense.
No, not loud, really.
The 5 of them are a competitive bunch.
I'm Steve.
But just press pause, and the competition subsides. That's because they've learned at a young age what's important in life.
The doctor said that if we waited 1 minute a day, I would have died.
11-year-old Connor Reynolds remembers exactly how he felt back in July. He had a headache, a fever, and was extremely tired. His mom, Heather, took him to the doctor, and she was told he needed to go to the hospital right away.
Talk about a mother's heart falling out of her chest.
Connor spent 4 days in the intensive care unit. Doctors said he had a severe case of pneumonia, which caused him to have an irregular heartbeat. Beach says as she waited at the hospital, she learned a person had died from Legionnaires a week before. She asked about it, and she says doctors brushed off the possibility.
The likelihood that he had that would be slim to none. Now, in the very next breath, they also said how extremely rare it was that he had pneumonia at 90-degree weather.
So she started doing research of her own and read up on Legionnaires.
It mimicked his symptoms. I can't even say, I mean, it was basically word for word his symptoms.
After some time, Connor is now fully recovered. But with the most recent news of Legionnaires possibly flowing through Flint's taps, she wonders if the mystery is solved.
How can so many things just be a coincidence? I am sure that my son had Legionnaires.
Good evening, hello, and welcome to TV5's special town hall meeting on the Flint water crisis. We are live from our downtown Flint studio. I'm Sam Merrill alongside Colette Boyd.
Now, the Flint water crisis has not only dominated local headlines, but it's now in the national spotlight. And tonight we are joined by more than a dozen of the men and women who both expose the problem and are working day and night to fix it.
Yeah, I understand the need not to panic and jump to conclusions, but shouldn't somebody somewhere have told you a little sooner than January of this year, 10 months later?
Well, you always wish that was the case. Again, that's looking back in history. I think Harvey handled it in terms of telling the department he didn't have the subject matter expertise. They should look into it, and if they saw an issue, they should bring it to my attention. They didn't bring it to my attention.
Critics are saying things like, you were late knowing about the lead, you were late knowing about the Legionnaires. How many more times is this governor going to get to say, nobody told me, until somebody says, hey, who's running things over?
Well, those are the two same issues. They've just been repeated quite often. But again, the facts are the facts, and I'm focused on putting a solution in place.
What about digging up the lines? When is that going to happen?
You really start by reestablishing the coating on the pipes, making sure through scientific testing that the water can be safe coming out through that process. We need to do a whole assessment of the infrastructure in Flint. Right. No one knows where the pipes really are or what those pipes are.
Does it really take this long?
Excuse me, is you have to do the assessment of the infrastructure. And again, records were not kept on many of these pipes, and so that takes significant work because you want to know what you're dealing with.
This really takes that long? Because, you know, people have been living with bottled water in their homes for 2 years now.
Well, again,
they want those pipes dug up. Can you tell them when that's going to happen?
Well, again, that's an issue throughout Michigan. There are many lead pipes. The goal here is to get the pipes recoated, again, have that scientifically validated so people can have confidence that the water's safe to drink.
So by the end of this year, this calendar year, will we see pipes being replaced?
The goal here is to get the water safe to drink. That's the focal point, and it's not based on time or chronology. It's based on scientific tests and results validated by third parties.
Do you think people will trust the water again if the lines aren't replaced, if they're just coated, recoated?
Well, again, that's what took place for many years here and takes place in most of Michigan where there are lead pipes, and most of the country. Again, that's only when they're shown to be safe based on test results. And again, that's that process. And again, Mark Edwards, who is one of the key people that have identified this whole issue, is actually, we were following a number of the protocols and his advice on how to address this problem. So I hope people have confidence in what's the next step.
Why not release the 2013 emails?
The question that came to me is, when did I first know about the lead issue? It wasn't about something back in 2013. It was still on Flint River water. That didn't happen until 2014. So I thought the clear answer was, that's the question being asked. I'm going to answer the question. So I released all the emails that go from the time it went to Flint River water through the time period that I did my release.
So you're saying that there's nothing relevant to this crisis in the 2013 emails?
Well, there's multiple investigations going on. We're fully cooperating with those. And again, I'm confident that as these investigations go on, they'll see that we worked hard in good faith to do the right thing.
That so many things went so terribly wrong and tragically wrong in Flint. Today, we are announcing we filed criminal charges in the Flint water crisis against 3 individuals.
Harsh words today for Michigan Attorney General Bill Schuette as he announced charges against 3 people for their role in the Flint water crisis. Felony charges that could send them to prison. 2 worked for the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality, Stephen Bush and Michael Prisby. 1, Mike Laskow, was the city's utilities director.
I'm not looking at the motive, I'm looking for truth.
I believe there is probable cause to believe that in each instance, as to each defendant, and as to each count, that the probable cause exists to believe that the listed crimes were committed and committed by the charged individuals.
For Mayor Karen Weaver, it was painful to see a city official charged.
Well, somebody said it earlier that it's a bittersweet kind of thing. You know, that's hard when it's your employee. But on the other hand, we still are looking for accountability no matter where it falls.
Sources say this is the beginning. Other shoes are expected to drop following the pattern of deception that many find it hard to swallow as the tainted water itself. Attorney General Schuette says more people will have to answer for their role in the crisis.
We'll follow the facts without fear or favor, and we'll go wherever the truth takes us, and in this case, wherever the emails take us.
2 years of outrage. 2 years of finger pointing.
I'm not buying that you didn't know about any of this until October 2015.
2 years of pleading for a basic human necessity.
We want clean water.
2 years of tough questions.
Have you ever given any thought ever to resigning?
What does the future hold for Mid-Michigan's largest city and the people who are drinking water poisoned with lead? TV5 presents a special town hall discussion. The Flint water crisis, looking to the future.
An infamous anniversary, not just for the city of Flint, but for all of Michigan. Day 731 of the Flint water crisis.
It was 2 years ago today. That's when the switch was flipped, and the city began using the water in its own town instead of buying it from Detroit.
But what was supposed to be a turning point for the city turned into a health emergency, affecting tens of thousands of people, engulfing the Snyder administration and leading to criminal charges against 3 people.
Just over a year ago, a bottle of water was a luxury to the McLeod and Lauren family. Now cut to today, and they go through nearly 200 bottles just to get through their day. Preparing a meal.
It's been working pretty good so far.
Taking a bath.
Never thought that in a million years that we would be living off of bottled water to bathe with.
And even brushing their teeth, all done with a bottle of water. A glimpse of what everyday family life is like during the water crisis.
This is what we do on a daily basis. We use this to wash up, and then we turn around the next day and we wipe with baby wipes.
Baby wipes. Every other day, Kenneth McLeod says his family uses baby wipes to wash their entire bodies to avoid depleting their supply of bottled water.
1 pack will probably last us half a day.
A daily routine much different than it was 2 years ago when water flowed freely from the tap before everything changed and families became dependent on bottled water. Cases and cases of bottled water. You'll find them in every nook and cranny of this 2-story Flint home.
We had to take all the pantry stuff out to make room for water.
On average, this family of 6 uses 6 cases or 210 bottles every single day. That's 42 cases or 1,470 bottles of water every week. In 1 year, that's more than 76,000 bottles of water just for this one home. Sound excessive? Not to this family, scared, and for good reason, to let any part of their skin come in contact with the water from the tap.
The irritation of the skin, the constant itching, burning of the eyes when you get out of the shower.
Tammy Lauren says her youngest son, Jeremiah, has permanent reminders of just how unsafe it is.
After the red spots and bumps went away, now he's scarred like this all over his body.
But the scars and even the inconvenience of their newfound way of bottled water life can't take away the pain a parent feels knowing their child is suffering something even more serious.
I hit my lowest point when we all had a powwow and realizing everything came to reality, and it really hit us. My youngest son broke down crying, and after we read his high levels.
High levels of lead in the blood of all 4 of their young boys. Lead known to profoundly affect children's growth, behavior, and intelligence, causing violent behavior and learning disabilities over time.
As a parent, you're helpless in a way, you know? You don't know what to tell them.
That's devastating as a parent, knowing there's nothing you can do.
But they know something can be done and say it's time for that something to happen.
We've shed so many tears. We're teared out.
I'm beyond pissed off.
Now fighting together as a family and a community.
The neighborhood, when they run low on water, what we do is we usually put some on a dolly and we share what we have.
Until every dangerous drop is flushed away and new service lines are put in place, they're staying put, counting down the days and empty bottles until life returns to what it once was before the Flint water crisis.
As long as we can keep ourselves healthy until this is over, this is home. This is home.
To really understand the magnitude of this, check out this bag. These are crushed water bottles. This is just 1 week for this family. They hope they don't have to keep living like this much longer. In Flint, David Custer, WNEM TV5.
I've been reaching out to help people my whole life. That's one of the things that's why I wanted this job.
A narrative from Governor Rick Snyder that may challenge your perception of him. Many people put blame for the Flint water crisis squarely on his shoulders. Today, the chief executive of our state came to my apartment and sat down with me for an exclusive one-on-one interview.
And this is something I do every day.
The governor called me, asking to stop by after seeing my video essay last week documenting what it's like for me to deal with the chaos caused by this man-made disaster.
Governor, I know this is going to take time. And I think people have to recognize when so many mistakes have been made, is that what it's all about? We have to make sure we do this right. We cannot afford to make a mistake.
Well, in terms of people not fully recognizing how I feel about it, I appreciate that. A lot of people are angry. And that's one of those things that's a natural human emotion if you went through something like this. So that's where you just gotta, I just have to basically understand that.
Some have questioned whether the governor can truly comprehend the human toll in this city, which began with the now infamous switch from the Detroit water to the contents of the Flint River.
Well, it's something you wish you never had to go through. I mean, it's not a good experience.
The Flint experiment has gone so wrong that the Attorney General's office has filed criminal charges against 3 people, with more to come. And the Federal Department of Justice is expected to soon announce its findings as well. Regardless of who is found guilty, the governor insists he has already taken steps to get to the bottom of things.
This should be investigated. Actually, I called for the first investigation myself.
Yes, you did.
The Flint After Action Task Force was something I created of independent people, and you can see they're independent people from the nature of the report. But again, there needs to be due process in this, so they're doing their reviews, and I support that, and I've been cooperating with them.
Today, the governor drank from my filtered kitchen tap as I joined in with him. He firmly believes that filtered Flint water is safe and improving by the day. He backed up that claim by filling up 4 gallons of water from my apartment with a promise that he will drink nothing but Flint water.
The fact you're still drinking out of bottled water is just a rotten answer for your life. And there are a lot more people like you that are going through that, and I hate to see that.
Asking the tough questions on day 738 of the Flint water crisis, Ronnie Duncan from my apartment, WNEM TV5 News at 5.
That I understood why you'd be afraid, not just for yourself, but for your kids. I also wanted to come here, though, to tell you that I've got your back.
And that message was greeted with loud approval. President Obama telling the crowd at Flint Northwestern High School he feels the pain of Flint residents.
And I just had a chance to meet with a few of your neighbors in a roundtable discussion. And I heard from them what I know a lot of you are feeling. That a lot of you are scared. That all of you feel let down.
And many say let down by Governor Snyder, believing he's responsible for the water crisis. And they let him know it. But President Obama urged them not to let those feelings translate into mistrust of the government.
This myth that government's always the enemy. That forgets that our government is us. That attitude is as corrosive to our democracy as the stuff that resulted in lead in your water.
Obama said now the government has a responsibility to turn this man-made crisis around. The president believes it'll take a lot of working together from city leaders to the state and federal government.
And I said this to the mayor and the governor. I had them both in my car, the Beast. I told them I wasn't going to let either of them out until we figured this out. Had Secret Service surrounding everybody.
Before he wrapped up, President Obama offered encouraging words, reassuring residents that their kids are going to be okay.
They'll make it as long as we're there for them and looking after them and doing the right thing for them and giving them the resources that they need. Can I get some water?
The president interrupted his speech and asked that simple question, a question that resonates well with the city of 100,000. They've been asking for the same thing for more than 2 years now.
I want a glass of water.
With the national spotlight on Flint, the president drank from a glass of filtered Flint water.
I really did need a glass of water. This is not a stunt.
Water that he insists is safe, something Governor Snyder echoed a couple weeks ago.
If they tell me something, which I'm saying in front of all those cameras, turns out to be wrong, that person will not have a job.
But even with the president's sign of approval, some say they're not buying it.
I don't believe that the filtered water is working for us. I don't believe it at all.
You don't believe the president?
No, unfortunately not. Right now, my trust in the government right now is completely pooped. Right now, I would not drink that water. I would not even wash my hands, my face in that water.
But others say the president's show of faith is exactly what this city needs.
For the community, it was just a healing time. We've got to heal. He encouraged us that there are powers within this community to revitalize itself and become stronger than ever. And I think that cup of water was a beginning of a way to say this is still a vital city in America, and we will get past this.
Thank you to the president for coming and doing that. That says a lot for sure.